I am particularly happy to be here with Tom because, all of us have been, enjoying and battling and thinking about Backstage and, the ups and downs. And, if you've been on the internet and into platform engineering, you probably at some point heard me say that, there are front ends and back ends, and, I had my, with the early days of Backstage, to be honest, I was battling a little bit. But I've been observing, the relentless focus that Spotify has on Backstage, and I've been continuously, amazed. And I was always thinking, they really mean it, right? Like, if I see like a large organization that is taking their internal tooling and then giving it to the world, I'm always wondering, will this be another Spinnaker? But you're not giving up. You continue to develop. You just took over that role 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so I'm so excited to debate this and understand where are we coming from, where are we going. So Tom, thank you so much for coming and being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's such a great event. So it's the first time for me at PlatformCon, but I'm enjoying so much.
Great, cool. Okay, so let's start maybe with looking, if we look at the last years with Backstage. Maybe we start with what are the things you thought did not go that well that you learned from. What were some learning opportunities for you internally?
Oh, definitely. So Backstage was kind of originally sourced in Spotify 8 years ago. But 5 years ago, we actually open sourced it. And since we open sourced it, it's exploded. So many companies started to adopt it. And we saw so many different type of companies and different sizes of companies. In the beginning, in the early days, it was a lot of kind of very visionary platform engineers that want to bring Backstage to their organization. And basically, they try to build stuff up. And Backstage, we built it in a way that it would be super flexible, so it can be fit to any company and any need. And those platform engineers, kind of champions, we call them the champions internally. The champions, they were actually advocating internally. They were going to companies and try to convince everybody that's the right way to do things. And they like to build and to build on top of this. Since then, a lot of time in flight, there's more and more companies who try to adopt Backstage. And of course, those companies started from, instead of from a champion, bringing it to a company, now we see leadership and leadership supports asking for platform teams to adopt the platform standards to actually be successful as other companies were successful with adopting IDP. And that's kind of a different segment of people who are adopting Backstage, right? They have maybe less resources to build on Backstage. They have different needs. And this is what we kind of learn and evolve the Backstage platform. Recently, the last years, I think around a year and a half ago, we started with the backend, new backend system. And then in the last year, we are focusing on a new front-end system. So we are changing how the Backstage works in order to make it much more easier to build plugins. An example, in the new front-end system, instead of building hundreds of lines of code and updating in a lot of places in the platform, basically you can have it in a very simple couple of lines of code and create a plugin much, much easier than in the past. It's important to say that we build a platform to build portals. And now, as Spotify, we also have a portal solution. So many years, everybody asking for us, can you build a SaaS solution, like something we can use out of the box and then build on top the kind of what we need and what special needs for our companies? So we did it as well, and that's why we launched Portal, which is our SaaS solution. So this is kind of the learning curve from starting with a very flexible platform and then to kind of build on top of it to become a SaaS solution, which is also flexible and extensible, the same as the first open source version.
Yeah, and my job is to stay neutral usually, but I actually genuinely recommend you check this hosted portal. It's very well done, very thoughtful, and it really keeps that flexibility of allowing you to take plugins, extend things, and takes away this hassle of, I don't know, who has ever set up Backstage and enjoyed it a lot is probably like I've not met many, but this makes it so convenient and it's very well thought through. So congrats on that and worth checking out. Let's talk a little bit about the sort of usage pattern. When we had a conversation, you said it's sort of evolving from the service catalog bit over the workflow components. Considering that, I think you're now one of the fastest and biggest CNCF projects ever. I've heard Gartner folks say that if 100 organizations have a portal, 80 will be Backstage, which is a remarkable achievement. How do you see the usage pattern and how is that evolving over the years?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, yeah, as you mentioned, it started all with software catalog and ownership and some components of automation, like the scaffolders and other kind of plugins on top of that, like standards. So we have like the Soundcheck plugin, which kind of help you to manage your standards in your organization. But we see more and more companies taking it to the next step, like we did in Spotify. So in Spotify, we have 115 plugins, something around that, on our internal Backstage. All our internal systems for developers are in Backstage. So if you are a developer in your organization, everything you need is in one place. You need to do an experiment. You need to use an AI tool. You need to work on machine learning, the machine learning platform. You need to go to manage your data pipelines. Everything is in one place. And it's so easy and convenient. It's reducing the huge cognitive load of companies that, you have many, many tools and developers don't know where to start, how to do stuff. So we see a lot of our customers and companies we work with starting to go that route and thinking about what is the internal tools they need to build as a plugins to bring all the cognitive load down for developers to have everything internally in one area so they can actually access it easily. They know which standard they can use and also use it in the way that the platform team actually want them to use. So we see more and more trends towards that direction. Another direction that we see is AI. AI is, of course, changing everything that developers do today. It's changing everything people do today in our day-to-day, right? But developers significantly different using AI assistant, using agents, which models to use. So we can talk more about that. But like AI is very kind of deeply now part of the developer portals.
I love talking about AI. Yeah, we will. Cool. Now, I've been also very vocal about this. It's not enough to just put a UI on the mess that you have today. And teased you a little bit with that maybe, for which I apologize publicly now. But if you look at that, like what's your recommendation for people how to architecturally treat the idea of portal versus backend automation? What's the Tom/Backstage take on this?
So I think it goes all hand in hand.
Yeah.
So basically, think about when you go and start using a portal. If you're buying one or building one or using the Backstage open source, you need to think first about your organization. What are the main pains in your organization? Think about the low-hanging fruit that you can have, the quick wins to drive traction from your developers. So let's say, for example, that let's say that you are now starting and your organization. I think you need to understand first, like, what is the most important. If it's modeling the whole software catalog, which will help you all the way to the kind of the future and helps kind of interact with AI tools to create self-service solution, kind of a self-service hub with like creating repos or creating services. Usually it's kind of an obvious, easy start because it takes a lot of time to connect all the services to a new service, and sometimes developers spending a lot of time waiting or sometimes platform teams spending a lot of time on this. And the idea is how to connect everything together to build and connect the right plugins, where is your deployment plugins, orchestration tools, and etc., and how you connect them all together to have a really frictionless experience for the developer when they are going to the portal and they start develop or they are manage their software or changing something or handling an incident. they should see things easily and find them very fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this ties back to what Bojan said before, right? Like ultimately, the tools are the tools are the tools. There are these tools and that tools. And it doesn't, in the end, it's sort of probably not the number one thing. But the number one thing is, how do we sit down as an organization and we actually come to conclusions of what we want to do and what we don't want to do? And are there people in the organization that feel confident saying no a lot, which takes a lot of stamina to do? And then the tools need to be set up in a way to support and be sort of the autobahn, to stay on my theme today, that helps us drive towards that standardized, glorious future. If we look at, you have a couple new things coming that I thought are interesting. I think number one, let's maybe stay as long away from AI as possible, and first focus on your new experimentation platform. What's that about?
Yeah, we added a feature flagging solution into Portal. And we are going to add more and more tools that we have internally in Spotify into the Portal. So Portal is not just the software catalog or just all the things that we are doing or Portal in the past. We also provide you tools in one bundle that we use in Spotify, and we are building like Spotify, kind of how you can do it yourself. So feature flagging helps you to create experimentations, like we experiment in Spotify. We have also the data experience. That's how we manage data on top of the software catalog. Data for us is a kind of first-class citizen on the software catalog. So managing data pipeline, data governance, things like that, it's important to see if there is anything in the downstream of the data that's broken. So everything is managed in one way, in one portal. We just gave a kind of an example of a use case for, think about migration for your, let's say in Spotify, for new AI music recommendation from the legacy music recommendation. So think about if we're doing this migration, we have the tools like Soundcheck on the portal, which helps us to run campaigns and see how many services change the migration or migrate to the new service. We do have AI tools. We talked about it more, but AI tools. Sorry for jumping to AI, but AI tools that you
Now's the time.
Yeah, you can actually ask the AI assistant, how can I migrate my service? And the assistant already know, like this is the way to migrate your service. That's what you need to update. You have the experiment or the feature flags that you can actually roll it out gradually, so you can test it out. And also you have the data management, so you can actually create those data points, collect the data, and manage data pipeline for that new service.
Good. And with that, let's come to AI.
Yeah.
Like, this is the moment for AI.
Good.
You are launching a new service called Aika.
Yes.
Okay, this sounds like an IKEA catalog.
Yeah.
And that is good that you're staying right on the Nordic brand. What is that about? Like, how can we imagine that to play out?
So Aika, by the way, it's AI knowledge assistant, not that creative.
Okay,
it's initials, not that creative, it's initials, yeah. But basically what it's about is that around 2 years ago, we wanted to allow developers in Spotify to access LLM in a safe and secure way. And it was the beginning of OpenAI and Google APIs. So we created the internal chat for them to access it. But we also included all the information using RAG and taking all the structured information you have in Backstage to the context of the LLM call. And basically, we created a tool that they can actually talk with LLM, but with all the context of appearing Backstage. So think about all the tech docs and all the documentation, software catalog, things like that. And that became a huge hit in Spotify. 80% of active developers using it almost on a daily basis, thousands and dozens of thousands of messages every day. People using the code it's created, using it for asking questions about the organization even, and it's created so much kind of simplification of accessing the data that's available in Backstage for us. In addition, we do have what we call Goalie, which is the on-call support person in Slack channels. So we have Aika there in Goalie answering people questions, saved so much time for developer instead of...
In Slack, so it's just a straight...
It's a Slack app, but it's the same Aika, it's connected. And so this is something we had a really great success internally in Spotify. And now we're externalizing. As part of Portal, Aika is coming as part of this kind of bundle. And basically, it uses all the tech doc kind of ingested and all the software catalog you're adding to your portal. And it knows to answer questions based on your engineering organization. It also allows you to connect to your LLM providers using your LLM API key. So it's not, it's using your own kind of agreements on that. But yeah, this is super, super exciting.
And it obviously works well. Like, that's a question. I assume it works well because if everything is already in the service catalog, it's already structured, because that's sort of the, when I tried the queue system at Amazon, it's sort of just an MCP server on everything. And I'm always wondering, like, okay, if you have the banana service in staging, production, development, how does the AI know which one I'm talking about, right? But you have the information hierarchy structure and all of that to make that possible. Is that accurate?
Yeah, definitely. And we did a lot of optimization for this during the 2 years. We learned how to use the structure data in Backstage in order to apply it to the right context and amount of context. Sometimes too much context was too bad, and we started to see like the LLM hallucinating. And we kind of always measuring it, what is the right amount of context we're taking internally from the structural data to the LLM. Yeah. So definitely that's part here.
That's a very important point. Like, I think for AI to not hallucinate, it needs to be trained on an enormous amount of data, but it needs to decide on a limited set of options, and then it's becoming pretty good. Like, and again, I think that's also so important. Because of that, the more standardized systems will be able to leverage AI more, because the more structured, the more standard, the more clean your estate, the faster you'll be able to actually adopt that thing. There's a direct correlation, again, between standardization, good backends, you guessed it, and AI usage. Cool. Last thing here, because I want to give you a chance to ask questions, and unfortunately I have to go to the airport. How do you see the role of the future of portals if it comes to, AI management? You said a very interesting thing about also that you're observing in the data of adoptions of developers that are already on Backstage. What are the numbers and the clues there?
Yeah, we do have some very, very early data, but we see that people who are using Backstage in a weekly or daily basis are more often using AI tools as well, and adopting AI is easier. In generally, what we see, and now if we want to foresee more the future, is that if we go back for a second, Backstage was created because of the fast-paced growing Spotify needed to find a solution to manage all the different teams that were added, all the different services, standards, kind of to control the chaos or control the growing pains in an organization, right? Now we are in an era that our company, even if we are not hiring, like you are not hiring, we are going to grow our complexity of the software ecosystem. It's going to be more code created because people are going to be faster with code assistants. They already are. There's going to be agents that do their own migration. They're going to do their own fixes. And we're going to start to see the software ecosystem becoming more and more complex. So I think this is a really good point for the future of portals, and we're talking about the future of portals. This is how it will help you to manage your organization and everything going on with your software ecosystem. If you have the place to register all the different MCP servers and all the different agents going on, and you need to control it and to control the ownership, but also giving the possibility for your teams to move fast and adopt these tools. Sometimes it's also like, every day I'm waking up in the morning, I see something new was launched. So sometimes it's also a way for your teams to understand what they can use and what's available in your organization, but also for you to control the chaos and to do some governance around it. Just kind of a nice anecdotal point. We had a Hack Week recently in Spotify, and we basically opened Aika our AI knowledge assistants to build MCPs and to integrate, to be an agentic and to integrate with MCPs. And there were around 57 MCPs that was creating internally to work in Aika in different use cases. So now that's the time to manage it, right? Like there's 57 new services going around, nobody know to find it, etc. So we have the software catalog, we're putting MCP in the software catalog, then people know what is available, what's not. Third parties MCP is becoming a thing as well. So someone needs to vet them, is a security team or a legal team or etc. So this is all important to be managed and kind of help the developers move fast to this future, but also in a controlled way.
Good. Thank you so much, Tom. Much appreciated. Let's take a couple questions. See who wants to know what's up at Spotify. I think we have a gentleman there.
Hello. Thanks. Seems like a lot of cool stuff coming into Portal. Are there any plans to move any of that stuff across to plugins for the open source Backstage?
Yes, so all the new front-end system and new back-end system, it's all open source. It's not part of Portal. Portal is based on the open source. It's using the open source. Definitely there's updates on plugins and the ecosystem. We're working with many partners as well to bring their kind of plugins and build their plugins to the ecosystem. So both plugins are going to work both on Portal, on our SaaS solution, but also the open source. We have kind of a partnership team working and trying to find more and more companies that they're going to contribute to this open ecosystem.
Hello, thank you. I get a lot of questions and noise from the development team saying we really have a need for a developer portal. So we've done a lot of research and see a lot of noise about Backstage being difficult to build and then ultimately low adoption rate. From your SaaS offering, have you got a kind of metrics that say, actually that's rubbish and really we should go for this and this brings a lot of value to an organization?
So it's depend on what your organization needs. Some organizations need the open source, and that's because they need to build some unique and bespoke opportunities or things that they want to manage. In our SaaS offering, we are also open to extensibility, so you can extensible and make it flexible. We do have those features, like Aika, the AI knowledge assistants, like the feature flagging. Those features create much more traction for the developers. And I think that's what I meant in the beginning, that you need to understand, like, first, what is the pain of the organization? Because, as you mentioned, adoptions is the key for actually being successful with that. Because once you have adoptions, then basically developers start to create new services with the scaffolder, so all the services are in the same standards. Once you have the standards aligned in the organization, then you can see actually the impact of that, right? More cross-team collaboration, more T-shapedness engineers, less time for incident resolve and things like that, or developing more software, like we see in Spotify and we see in many of our partners. So I do think with a SaaS offering, when we have those feature flagging, experimentation, the data for the data practitioners, bringing another kind of vertical of developers into the portal, and also the Aika, the AI knowledge assistant, which have everything kind of, all the knowledge in the organization in your fingertip. I think this is create a higher adoption than what we have in the open source.
And I would say one more thing, if you allow. I think we're also, if we're looking at the adoption of portals, sometimes setting the expectations in the wrong way. If one of the big cases is you're using it if you're scaffolding something new, then you obviously have to ask yourself, how often are you scaffolding something? And so then if the expectation is every developer is using this every morning, like there's a famous Backstage implementation, I won't name the company, that's called Sunrise, because they're expecting every single developer to use this when the sun rises. If that's your expectation level and you're managing against that adoption, you'll probably fail, right? But if the expectation level is that, it's structuring when people need it, they're looking at it in certain workflows, then you'll see lower numbers, but that doesn't mean that, the effect of visualizing and structuring isn't there. That at least also plays a role.
By the way, in Spotify, we have 98% adoption of a weekly active usage in Backstage for all R&D employees, not just developers. We're talking about program managers, product managers, data scientists. So yeah, we got to it, and we saw a lot of our customers getting into it as well.
Jenna, we got one more question, but your answer needs to be short.
Sure. Sorry.
Hi. I'm curious how the use of AI in the portal changed the user behavior of interacting with the portal, and in result, your ideas about how you invest in different features of the portal. Are there sections or workflows that were starved out because there is an AI? Let's say users stop using filters to find entities and they just go straight to AI, or they don't go to entity page to see details, they just ask AI, and how it affects your roadmap of how you want to develop the portal.
Yeah, I'm going to answer it really shortly. We did see a lot of change in kind of the search trends. People moved to use their AI assistants versus using the search in order to discover stuff. I'm sure we're going to see more and more when the AI assistants can actually make action and create scaffolders and use the templates. Definitely, there's a lot of change there with the AI tooling. Yeah.
All right, I think that is it. Tom, thank you so much for being here, and make sure you grab Tom and ask while you're here. You'll stay?
Yeah, I'm here, and feel free to connect with me anytime you want.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.